Alex Hormozi's brutal truths for escaping a 9 to 5 and the 6 mindset shifts that will completely change the game for you when growing an online business. Now, Alex Hormozi just dropped a 4-hour banger over on Modern Wisdom, absolutely epic. And I'm going to break down the whole thing, or at least 6 core components in this video that will immediately change the game when it comes to your business, whether you're a beginner or you're a little bit seasoned. So truth number 1, take responsibility for your current position. As Alex Hormozi said, you're exactly where your choices have led you. If you think about that for a moment, decisions breed actions and actions have consequences. When we don't do, let's say, outreach, for instance, outreach is a core component of when you are starting out building an online business. Most of it is going to be organic. It's a lot of brunt work there. And by brunt work, I mean, you're going to have to network with people. You're going to have to reach out. You're going to have to basically have those connections, have those conversations. And when you don't, guess what's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing will happen. And you can't get paid when, quite frankly, nothing happens. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a backstory. So for me personally, when I got into copywriting, I reached out to someone about 20 times, and that was over a period of 6 months. And this was a time where I was struggling in terms of finding a couple of clients. And in the end, that client ended up being one of my biggest clients to date. And we had a good 3-year relationship. But had I not followed up and been consistent with that, that would have never happened. And I would have been moping about not being able to get a high paying client. It's the same when it comes to social media as well and building an online business this way. You have to follow new people. You got to go for those DMs, even if they feel salesy at times. You have to start posting content just to get awareness out there. And if you do none of those things, again, there's going to be very little, if anything, changing. So remember that if you are literally starting out or you are thinking about you're not getting the results that you want, then have a look at the actions that you're taking and see if they're in line with where you want to be. And if not, no worries at all. That's something you can go ahead and literally start today to start making that shift. So the long-term commute, the bad manager, the Sunday dread, all the 9 to 5 stuff, you've accepted the contract, and that means you can write a new one. So start today, and that is what we're going to do. So the 10-minute skill, audit that changes everything, right? So what I want you to think about is listing your top 5 dailies at work. All right. So maybe you've got a current job at the minute, right? And you want to build an online business. Then there's chances are you're developing some level of skill within that business. And if you are not, then you have some sort of passion elsewhere and something else that you are good at that perhaps could be of value, of help to someone else out there in the world. And that is a very good trait to have, right? And then ask yourself the question, would someone pay for this? Well, would they pay you money? If so, fantastic. That is a good indicator that potentially you have something that can essentially have and grow an online business. And if it's more around the copywriting things, then yes, that is completely validated. People want that. If it comes to coaching, consulting, service-led businesses, a lot of people want these because people have problems. If you can solve problems, happy days, you're going to be in business, which is awesome. And pick one that excites you the most. So don't always just chase the money. The money can be a bigger lure sometimes, but you can end up getting into something you do not like doing, and that will suck. Trust me. So do that. And truth number 2, all right, the hidden cost of doing nothing. All right, so inaction feels safe, right? It's actually the highest risk. So we could, like I said in the previous slide, we could just sit there and do absolutely nothing. But think about the life that we want. We might think about wanting to travel a little bit more. We might think about earning X amount of money. We might think about leaving our job, all these kinds of cool things, or going on holiday a few times a week, whatever it might be, working for yourself. And it feels good. And your brain really doesn't know the difference between you taking action and you not doing anything. It's kind of the same feeling and the same response. So it can trick you in a way, which isn't a good thing, right? So by not doing anything, you are virtually guaranteed to do nothing. So if you want to improve your life in some way, shape, or form, you take action. And you take action steps towards where it is you might be. That might be posting content on social media. It might be having more connections, outreach. It might be just paying for a mentor. It might be reading more books. It might be watching some YouTube videos so you can get some more knowledge. There's loads of things you can do, but doing nothing virtually guarantees Nothing. So remember that. Inaction feels safe. It's actually the highest risk. All right. So playing it safe, look, it's the most dangerous thing you can do, right? Starting a service business costs absolutely zero. So remember that. If you want to build a service-based business, which is generally the umbrella of consulting, coaching, copywriting, all the kind of good stuff that way, where you can actually build more of a lifestyle business. You can kind of work on your terms. It's a really nice kind of business model. Nothing's going to happen if you don't do any action towards doing it. But staying in a job, hate costs because your entire life, all right, it just sucks in some respects. And I've worked plenty of 9 to 5s. I've worked like jobs I just didn't like, and they were just soul crushing a little bit. Not to say that's not you're any better than anyone doing that. You're absolutely not. It's just for me, it wasn't my kind of place. It didn't feel right. So I spent the best part of a couple of months waking up super early, outreaching like a madman, just so I can get this copywriting thing off the races, essentially. And look, the worst case, right, is you start and you fail. All right, but failure is a lesson, and in lessons you can grow. Without those lessons, you can't. So you don't even find more about what you're capable of. You don't even find out what you're good at and what you're not so good at. You might have had expectation thinking that actually I might try this copywriting thing, but actually down the line you hate it. You just the allure of like the money might have lured you in, but actually you don't like it. The same with coaching. Maybe you like the idea of that, but you didn't. You got a few calls and you found the energy was there, and that's completely fine. You learn something new, you can pivot, you can transition. You're not tied into anything at any one time. All right. So we can pivot. That's the beauty of this kind of business, right? And if you never start, you work for someone else for the next 40 years. All right. So think about that. If you don't do anything, then a side hustle income coming in, or even pivoting full-time and quitting your job, just won't happen if you take no action. So just think to yourself, which one is actually the risk? Is it the risk of staying put and doing absolutely nothing for the time being? If you are perfectly fine and happy in that job and content, that's completely fine. If you're comfortable, that's fine. But if you're not and you feel like you have something more to give, you have more value that you want to provide, you want to help people, you want to create your own kind of lifestyle business, have a bit more freedom, then it might be worth to try and take that risk and see where that ends up. The worst case scenario is you can go back and get a job, right? And that's always a good thing. And the truth number 3, right? Why we choose long-term misery over short-term discomfort. So people enjoy years of suffering to avoid a few minutes of awkwardness. Alex Hormozi. So 20 minutes of discomfort versus 40 years of misery. So sending a cold DM is uncomfortable, right? You feel like you might get rejected. You might get ghosted. And guess what? You might. And that is the worst thing that is generally going to happen. I have been told once to F off, but that was it. Everyone else either ghosted me or they replied and said they're just not interested. And guess what? My life carried on as normal. Nothing happened. It's all good. All right. So that is uncomfortable at first. And it still feels uncomfortable a little bit now. It's because it's just a bit of practice at the end of the day. It's like I'm a natural introvert. But once I start getting the conversation going, it's awesome, essentially. But staying in a job you hate, again, miserable for 40 years. And we are wired to avoid the 20 minutes, right? Because, how many times we picked up a phone, right? And we just we'll go to do something and we end up doom scrolling and nothing happens. We just spend the best part of half an hour just checking out cat videos or whatever the algorithm wants to feed us. That's not good. That's literally not good. That could have been 30 minutes of you towards a business. It's not a lot of time, but it's enough time. And that time compounds over time. All right, 20 minutes a day for 5 days. I'm going to butcher this now, but that's 100 minutes, right? And that's an hour and 20 minutes, and then spread that out over essentially the year. That's a lot, all right? And that's enough time. And most of the time, we probably have more than 20 minutes to spend. And if you don't, it's moving the needle. So post, sending that email, practicing some emails, working on an offer, find a new audience. There's loads of things you could potentially do, right? So yeah, and it costs. It's basically costing us everything if we don't change. So rejection isn't data. Sorry, rejection isn't failure. It's data. All right. Every no tells you something. Wrong audience, wrong offer, wrong message. You fix things and you send it again. You do it again. You post again. You reach out again. Whatever it might be. You might be coming up to a new offer. You know, might just be in the wrong kind of market. The offer might be good, but maybe the messaging isn't great. And therefore, you might have to work on your copywriting. Perhaps you've got a client that you're writing emails and ads for, essentially, but it's not converting. And then you can look at like things like hook, the body, the call to action, whether or not the landing page is aligned to the ad. There's loads of things. The subject lines are curiosity based. Is there enough there to get the clicks? Call to actions. Again, there's loads of things. All right. But you can always learn from it. And by learning, you get better. And by better, you grow. All right. So only real failure is stopping. If you quit and do nothing, that's it. All right. Truth number 4, how to escape decision paralysis. Big one. A wrong decision is better than no decision. I can't tell you how many times, I've been wanting to do something and I've just not taken action on it, or I've delayed it and for like a week, like washing, or like, you have to pull up a fence, have to clean the bathroom, whatever it might be. And you delay it. And then maybe it gets worse, or new things come up, and then very real things come up, and then you can no longer avoid it. Or something just gets progressively worse to a point where you have to then give it attention, because if you don't, then it will just get bad. All right. So think about it this way: should I do copywriting, consulting, SEO, become a coach? There's a lot of options, right? Especially when it comes to a service-based business. All right. But it doesn't matter. You pick one. The market will tell you if you're good at it, and you can't think your way to clarity. You can only act your way there. So if you have an interest in coaching, then go for coaching. If you have an interest in copywriting, go for that. If you have an interest in videography, go for that. If you have an interest in SEO, go for it. There is no wrong decision here, and you can pivot at any time. But if you just choose not to act, you choose not to do anything, you overwhelm yourself by trying to be a master of all trades, essentially, which at a point can be a good thing. But initially, at the beginning, you might want to get good at one thing and then get good at another thing. It's a good idea to do that and avoid overwhelm completely. So 24-hour rule for picking your offer. So have a think about this. Right? You have 24 hours to answer this question. What do I know how to do? So what do you know how to do what? Who needs this? And what would they pay? And write it down. And that's your offer done. So this comes down to anything. All right. This comes down whether you're a copywriter, consultant, want to become a coach, SEO, whatever it might be. What does an offer that you can present to the market look like? And it's very simple. What do I know how to do? So what do you do now? How do I? For instance, if you were someone who might have been overweight and you lost weight, that is in essence a package there, because you've lived it, you've had that personal experience. So therefore, you can create a program and offer to help people who are in the same situations you lose that amount of weight and get their lives back, right? And who needs it? Well, it's going to be people who relate to that situation. So people who are generally overweight. And what would they pay? You can do market research and see what the market are paying. You can validate it that way. And then when you get better, you can increase your prices over time. It's the same if you're copywriting, right? If you're a freelance copywriter, at one point, you can pretty much start developing your own offer, right? So what do I know how to do? Let's say you know how to do cold outreach. Brilliant. That can be an offer, cold outreach system, right? Who needs it? Well, people who have a business and do outreach, and they need more connections. They don't know how to build a network. They don't know how to get their foot in the door. Well, that's a pretty good offer. And then what would they pay? Probably a lot of money, because again, it's a highly valuable skill. There's loads of things. And again, if you're working with a client who you're doing copywriting for, and they have their own offer, then you know exactly who it is that they want to help, and you know the market, and you know how much they would pay, and then you can overcome that objection as well. So bear that in mind. Truth number 5, never let others mock your mission. All right. So protect your ambition like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. All right. Your co-workers will laugh. All right. If you're still on the job, they might laugh, right? They might joke. They might say, good luck on that, or may not say anything at all. And maybe you want a bit of appreciation, want a bit of respect. You want someone to say, good for you or proud for you. Maybe some people will, in which case, awesome stuff. There might be a bit of a rarity. It's good to find, and it's generally quite hard to find that. All right, but if you do, fantastic, keep them because they're great people to be around, right? When you update your LinkedIn to freelance copywriter, when you post your first piece of content, when you tell them that you're starting a business, they will laugh. Not always, but they might. And when they laugh, it can be painful. And that might put you off a little bit, but don't let it. Because you're doing what they're to eventually scared off. They may have ideas. They may have wanted to step out of their lane for a while and do something their own. And if that's the case, and they've not taken action on it, then they might want to bring other people down. It's the whole crabs in a bucket situation. You get to a certain level, people want to pull you back. It's not a fun place to be. So again, if you are in a working environment and you don't particularly like your job and you want to step out of it and do something else and you haven't got the support, you don't feel like people are supporting you, then don't worry about them. All right. Don't let their opinions have any impact on you. You do your thing. You go ahead and create. And hey, if you fail, you can go back and get a job. Doesn't matter. You can restart, go again, and crack on. So just build in stealth mode. You don't owe anyone an announcement. Okay. The only people that you need and make an announcement to are the people who you want to work with. That is it. All right, so you build quietly, you get your first client, you get your second, you match your salary, and then boom, you can quit at that point because if you can replace your salary or if you feel like there's a trend going on, in which case, like the next month or two, you feel like you're on track to replacing your income, then you can take the risk and then you can step out and you can hand your notice in. Or you can just get to a point where you get the full-time income first before then, sacking off a job. You need money coming in at the end of the day before you quit. It's a good thing, right? And then tell them you're leaving, right? And let the results do the talking. As simple as that. All right. So don't let anyone's opinions hold you back because you'll be surprised. People won't support you. People might want you to get to a certain level and they might want to pull you back, and that can suck. But don't worry about it. All right. Do your thing. We have one life. We're all going to die. So live it. Truth number 6, the people you need to avoid. All right. You can't fly with eagles if you're surrounded by turkeys. I like that one. And Alex Hormozi. So the work family is a trap, right? Okay. So if your daily conversations are complaining about the boss, moaning about the commute, counting down to Friday, living for the weekends, that kind of thing, you're in the wrong room. You're especially in the wrong room if the people around you don't support your goals. That is a very high indicator that you're not in the right room. And it's not necessarily a case of what you want to do is a bad thing. It just means that the people around you just aren't ready to support you on that journey. So if you're around people who are like-minded in a community, you're going to have that energy, you have the motivation to just crack on and just enjoy it. So that might be a mentorship. It might be finding a local networking community, joining some groups on Facebook where people hanging out who have the same interests as you. There's plenty of copywriting groups. There's plenty of coaching, mentoring groups and things like that. There's plenty. So be in the right rooms and you won't feel alone. And that's the whole point, where she'll pretty much just rattle on there, really. And the 6 brutal truths, part 1. Okay, so this is part 1. There will be a part 2 on this as well because the podcast is fantastic and lots of things to pull from it. But obviously, I want to keep this to marketing lessons and everything else. So take responsibility. You choose this. You can change it. So you're the captain of your ship. You have the control of the direction to some level of where you want to be. You can choose the actions you want to take. And remember, inaction is the real risk. So just not doing anything, there's a cost to that. And the cost is you stay stuck, you stay in a job you don't particularly like, or just you get no momentum, you wallow in your own pity, which I've done plenty of times, and it's just not a fun place to be, right? So choose short-term discomfort, not long-term misery. We kind of overestimate what we can do in 10 years as well. I think I was saying we overestimate what we do in 10 years and what we do in a year, something like that. And it's true. It is true. But there is going to be some short-term discomfort. And the discomfort will suck and it will grind and it will just it'll bore you down a little bit. But you have to ride through the suck before you can get to where you want to be. All right. You have to roll with the punches. And that's generally the hard bit as well, because at the very beginning, it's hard to see the momentum. And when you don't see the momentum, it's like growing a YouTube channel, you don't see the momentum right off the bat, you get a couple of views. It can be demotivating. But the longer you stick at it and the more consistency, happy days. It's going to hopefully work out in your favor because you're taking the right steps, right? Pick an offer in 24 hours and stop overthinking about it. Again, this is more of established, right? So if you already have an idea, you already know who you want to help, and you just need to know what it is in terms of how you're going to help people, and have a little think about it. What problems are you solving? What's the big bottleneck for a business or a person? How can that be packaged into something you can deliver? And then think about the price. You can do some market research around what people are charging. You can even use an AI for that, because AI generally tells you, which is pretty cool, gives you a good indicator or a ballpark. And then building stealth, right? So protect your ambition. It's one of those things, it's a two-way streak. If you go ahead and say to people, I'm going to do this thing, right? But then a week later, you don't do that thing. Not only is that a knock on your confidence, but you've just also told people that you're going to do something, and they might interpret that as, well, this person isn't committed. So if you're going to go in it, go in on it. All right. That's it. And then change your room. So your environment is everything. All right. Find the right people. It's like a YouTube community. You can play in the comment section within this as this grows. There's plenty of communities out there, but if you're around the right people, everything just gets a little bit easier. So part 2 is coming, and we cover 6 mechanics of actual winning. We're going to go into how to learn a skill in a day, how to launch ugly and win anyway, how to land your first client, and how to go all in. So some exciting stuff. And if you'd like, I'm just going to offer this now, but if you'd like to book a one-to-one session with me where we just have a little chat, you bring the questions to the call, and we kind of just dive into where you want to be, what that might look like, and give you a bit of a plan essentially after the call, then feel free to drop a comment below or click the link in the description, and we can take it from there. Until next time, if you like that video, like and subscribe, helps me out more than you know, and have a fantastic day.